Hi guys, and welcome to this interview. Today I've got with me Paul Preston. Now Paul, you're known as the HMO guy, and the reason that I wanted to do this interview is because there are a lot of people doing HMOs around.
Yeah.
And Paul's got a totally different slant on it. Paul looks for a minimum of £1,000 net cash flow per deal per month. Now think about this, how many properties do you need cash flow and a net income £1,000 a month to replace your income? Probably not that many. And Paul, do you want to tell us a little bit about your strategy?
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, thanks very much for inviting me to be involved. It's always good to see you, Didier. But yeah, as you quite rightly mentioned, my model, I look to make a clear profit of the all costs of £1,000 per property per month. And that honestly is a realistic average. Now, do they all do that? I'll be honest and say I've got some that do a little bit less, but I've got a number that do substantially more. Why do I base my model like this? Well, firstly, I'm not afraid of hard work, but would I rather have 100 properties that cash flow £100 a month and have 100 times that amount of work, or would I rather have 10 properties that cash flow £1,000 a month, have a tenth of the work, or even better, 5 properties that cash flow £2,000 a month? So really it's all about leverage of time, leverage of return, and for a lot of people starting out in property, and I know that some of the people you coach, Stephen, you've got experienced property investors, but a lot of people watching this might just be starting out and think, look, well, where do I go? The idea of, I've got to own 100 properties, I've got to buy 100 properties, where do I get 100 deposits from? Now you and I know you don't need deposits, but I'm sure you're going to cover that another time.
Yes.
But just the gravity of having to think, I've got to buy 100 houses, where, I can teach you how to retire on one house. Because if one house makes you £2,000 a month, and that's after all the costs, well, that's the average salary in the UK anyway, covered in one property deal. And for a lot of people, the perception and the feeling of, can I manage one deal, or maybe even one deal a year for the next couple of years? Yes, you absolutely can, and I would think it would be a lot more than that. But one is a lot more achievable than 100.
Exactly, yes. And I just wanted to pick it up on that little thing that you said. Some of the properties obviously are going to cash flow more than 1,000, and some of them cash flow less. And I just remember a post you put on Facebook the other day saying that, I've done another deal and it's not that good a deal. And I'm kind of thinking, right, let's have a look at what this deal is about. And it goes, it's only going to cash flow £600 net per month. Now think about it this way, if it only cash flows £600, you still only need 4 properties to retire.
Yeah.
And that really amazes me about you. You're going out there and getting really high cash flow deals. Why do you think it's important to get high cash flow deals today in the property market?
Yeah, I know you messaged me through Facebook when you noticed that, and yeah, sure, it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but yeah, in all honesty, for me, that's not a great deal. Now, obviously, £600 a month, it's still good enough to do the deal. I still want those deals, but for the normal stuff I'm looking at, that's it's kind of like half what I would look at normally. But why is it important to work for cash flow? Well. There's so many reasons, but if you're just working on a very, very tight margin, and some single lets, I know people that their single let breaks even, so they're neither up nor down. I know some people, they lose a little bit of money every month, and some people just maybe make £50 to £100 on their single lets. Now, all it takes is one little bit of maintenance, one void month, or one little repair, when you're losing money on that property. And if I take you back to my earlier example, I said, if you had to have 100 properties making £100 a month, well, can you imagine if you had 100 properties that lost you £100 a month? Can you imagine if you had 100 properties where they were all empty for 1 month? So not only is it leveraging your time, it's massively minimising your risk as well. Another benefit of HMOs is that on a single let, you've got one tenant, you've got one person paying the rent. Now, if for any reason that tenant goes bad or they can't pay, that's 100% of your rent gone. If you've got 5 or 6 rooms in an HMO, and let's say you did have one bad apple, well, you've still got 80% of people in there paying the rent, so you're still okay. And secondly, I mean, unfortunately, I can't predict the future, and if I could, I'd gladly share it with you. But look, we don't know what's going to happen with interest rates and when. What we can be fairly sure of is they will go up at some point. Now, if you're quite highly geared and you're just making £50 to £100 now, it probably doesn't take much more than a 0.5% move in the base rate for you to be losing money on that property. But with HMO properties, you can actually still have coverage up into rises of 10% and above in the base rate and still be making really, really good money. So there's a whole host of reasons why cash flow is important, but also for living as well, because a lot of investors, when they start out, they think, well, they don't think about making money in the here and now, they think about long-term capital growth. Now, I believe that will happen, but also I don't want to wait 20, 30 years for that gratification. I want to make sure I can earn an income now. And for a lot of people watching this who you work with, I know as your private clients, I know a lot of them are looking to get into property as a way to get out of their job.
Yes.
Now, if you're not making any money, how do you get out of your job? Now, you might have some houses, but if they're not making any money, you're not getting out of your job, and that's another reason why cash flow is so important. Because ultimately, once you've got that passive coming in, £1,000 a month, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, it just really gives you the time, the freedom, and the choice in your life. Because also keep in mind, 1, 2, 5, 10,000. It's 1, 2, 5, 10 properties. This isn't a full-time job trying to manage 200 rental units.
Yeah. So what you're saying is basically the risk overall and the reward that you get from multi-lets is substantially more than single lets, because you're not prone to interest rate changes, you're not prone to void periods, you've got less maintenance, and you're just going to not have to deal with so many different properties.
Absolutely. I mean, and I guess just to clarify what you said, I mean, interest rate fluctuations will affect everyone.
Yeah. So
it's not that they don't affect you, but it's just that you just have such a massive margin to work with that it's now £50 out of your 1,000 rather than you were making £50, you're now making nothing. And also, there's a lot of other things that that I teach as well. That when you've got more tenants, there's a lot more ways to maximise the income from other strategies rather than just the rental itself.
Excellent. So, for the viewers who don't know you, can you just tell us a little bit? Because I mean, we met 2.5 years ago, something like that, and just tell them kind of what's your background, where have you come from, and how have you got to this stage?
Sure, yeah, certainly. Well, I mean, I started off investing in property what I now call the old-fashioned way. So I saved up my own money, put a deposit down, and quite the traditional way. And honestly, I didn't know any other way. But that was in the time where it was quite easy to get 95% mortgages. Lenders were literally, handing money out. It was very easy. I didn't think I was as a savvy investor. I just, bought a few houses. They went up in value. I took a bit of money out and bought a few more, and that was all well and good up until a point. Up until when however much you've got, that deposit pot, that fund is going to run out, and also rates were going up. We had the credit crunch in 2007. Lending was tight, and all of a sudden I actually realised that I was losing money on a lot of properties, and these are all single let. So I thought, well, you know what? There's got to be a better way. I'll be completely honest with you, and anyone who's seen me speak live will have heard me share this story. But credit crunch affected me as well, and things were pretty tight. And I actually took a couple of lodges into my own home, and then I had quite an interesting realisation one day that I actually thought, well, I actually realised that for years of staying away from HMOs, because I perceived that they were hassle, I perceived that they were hard work, I perceived that I didn't have the experience for them, and I didn't know how much money you could make from them. But all of a sudden realised that, well, because I've got a couple of lodges in my house, that A, I was living in an HMO, and B, by default, I was an HMO landlord. But then I actually also realised that having those few lodges in my house, it actually paid my mortgage. So I was actually living for free. And then it kind of like dawned on me that, in real terms, that was the only property in my portfolio that actually made real money month to month, every month, and also enabled me to live for free. And that was kind of like the light bulb moment for me. So I started looking into HMOs a bit more. I went out there, made sure I learned, I trained, I educate myself, I work with coaches and mentors, to take myself to the next level. And really, once I found HMOs, I really never looked back. It was just like, I wish I'd known years ago. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but that's why I've made this my main strategy going forward, just because the gravity of the cash flow and what you can achieve with these properties is just phenomenal.
And we've talked before on some other videos about focus, and Paul's really focused on HMOs and he's making real success of it. And this is really a must-have strategy, isn't it, for pretty much everybody out there who wants to be successful?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, it kind of sort of fascinates me in some ways, but I also understand, because I used to feel like that, why so many people are still staying away from HMOs. And it's all these things that we have, like, oh, I've not got the experience for that, or isn't there quite a lot of legislation, or isn't that quite a lot of hassle? And there's all these things, all these excuses that we give ourselves for not getting into something. And that's why it's really important to have someone who's coaching you to actually push you, to get you outside of your comfort zone and say, look, come on, you can do this, and really lead you, help you, and guide you. But a lot of this really is perception. It's a perception of hassle. It's a perception of more work. It's a perception that you haven't got the ability and the experience to do it, because you absolutely have. I'm honestly no different to anyone else. And then there'll be a lot of people watching this that are, probably much better prepared and equipped than I am. And honestly, if I can do it, anyone can.
Excellent. So for the people viewing this, you can see that Paul's extremely enthusiastic about HMOs, and he's always been an enthusiastic guy. It's a little bit off topic, but I want to know, what gets you out of bed in the morning? What gives you this energy to go out there and effectively, because you've got to face these perceived fears that you've got, right? What, in that time of not knowing what to do or not being sure, what got you out of bed?
I mean, yeah, that's a really good question, because a lot of people, get to a point where they can sort of settle in life and sort of be, say, oh, well, this is my lot now, this is where I am. I think for me, it's just, I just always believe that, we've got one chance round in this life, and I think you deserve and you owe it to yourself to be the best that you can be, to be the best version of you that you can be. Now, that's not to say we all want to be the same, we all want to do the same things. You probably got clients who maybe want, an income of £20,000 a year, that would make them financially free. You've probably got clients you coach who want £50,000 a year, £100,000 a year. These people aren't, there's no better or worse, it's just different strategy, and you coach people, you work with different strategies for different people. But whatever, I just think, see how far you can go in this life, that's what gets me up to perform at my best, to push myself, to challenge myself. But also, and that's why one of the greatest honours in being involved in speaking now is to be able to pass on what you've learned, because it's only through working with coaches and mentors like yourself, and also getting the education. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. So it's a real honour to be able to give some of that back and to help people. And one of my property goals, for example, is that I want to help 1,000 people make £1,000 a month through property. Because I said earlier, one of the things that when you've learned this stuff, I think you've got a duty to pass that on. And it was only through me learning, educating myself, working with coaches and mentors, such as yourself and the people that we've both learned from, is that when you're in a position that you've learned, and hopefully even you can take that further, then I think you've got a duty and a responsibility to pass on what you've learned, so to help other people get there quicker. But my property goal, I mean, of course I'm still growing my portfolio and I'm still challenging myself, but I want to be able to help other people. And if I help 1,000 people get just one HMO each, that's 1,000 people making £1,000 a month, which means that I'll be responsible for helping people create £1 million a month. Which would be a great personal achievement for me, but great satisfaction to help that many people become financially free through property. And for a lot of people, £1,000 that might not be retired, but I would bet for most people, would you rather have £1,000 coming in passively every month? Now, £12,000 a year is going to make a big difference to any household, and that's one of my personal goals.
Fantastic goal, Paul. That's
Yeah.
Great goal. I know you're the type of guy who go out there and achieve that.
We're working on it.
Excellent. So there's one more thing I want to ask you. At the end of each of my videos, I like to give people one golden nugget, so they can go away. Because you can go to lots of events and you can get lots of information, but I want everyone watching this video to get one bit of information they can go away and use to help them make more deals happen, or if they've got deals happening, make them happen faster. Just make them more successful with one thing.
Fine. I mean, a great question. It's really hard to probably narrow it down to one thing. So is it all right if I have two?
Ooh, go on then.
Okay. So I mean, the two things I'll say is firstly the importance of pipeline, because a lot of people they'll get this one lead or one deal and they'll be trying to make that work, and they'll spend so much time on that one thing, and we all know that some deals are going to drop out of bed and go bad and not go through. If you spend 100% of your time on one deal, you've then got nothing rolling through. So it's just the importance of building pipeline. You think you've got something that's looking good, great, what else have you got coming in? So that permanent generation. And I guess the second thing as well is that also know when to cut your time, because sometimes you can spend too long trying to make something into a deal that either isn't or that isn't going to go through. But especially when you're starting out, you think, oh, it's my first lead, I've got to make it work. You haven't. It's got to be right for you, and I guess really be ruthless with your time. Those would be kind of like my two key points.
And I think we both know how it feels to be picking on one lead and trying to make that one lead work.
Definitely.
So, guys, go out there and get lots of things in your pipeline. I mean, I've heard somebody say once you should have at least 20 things in your pipeline at any point in time, because they're all at different stages. So go out there and don't spend too much time on each one. Thank you very much for the interview, Paul. And if you want to know more about Paul, what's your website?
Yeah, certainly. And if you want to learn more about HMOs and how to make £1,000 profit per property per month, you can go to my website, which is thehmoguy.com. We've got free downloads on there. There's also a free 7-part mini-series, an introduction to HMOs and teaching you the basics. So you can also contact me through there as well. So my email address, paul@thehmoguy.com, or by all means just go to the website and find my contact details through there.
And we'll put that link below this video for you to have a look at. Thanks.
Thank you.